Well, welcome to Coffee and a Chat. Today is a late start day, so I don't know what happened, but I slept in like almost 10 o'clock, so I must have needed some sleep after some mornings that God's been getting me up super early. I think it caught up to me today. So I'm a running, running behind today, but that's okay. So today is going to be the completion of my little 8-part mini series. So today's part 8 in the series on Wake Up. And if you've not seen the previous videos, you might want to go back and check them out. But basically, back in 2015, the Lord began to speak to me that I needed to wake up, that there were some things coming and there were some changes I needed to start making in my life so I would be prepared to handle those changes. Now, some things have definitely happened in my personal life and in the world in those years since then, and I know that there's more to come. I know that we're not done going. In fact, at this point in life, I think we probably all need to be prepared for change after change after change, that there are things we'll go through that we probably never ever thought we would go through, especially in America. So I said previously on one of these videos that this is an ongoing process, these 7 things that God listed out for me in my life, that it's become kind of a new way of life for me, is implementing these things. So today is the 7th thing on the list. It is one of the ones I've found to be most important, and surprisingly a little more difficult than I initially thought it might be. So the 7th thing is finding like-minded people. So what does it mean to be like-minded? Does it mean you agree on everything? No. But there are deal breakers, the really important things. You've got to find people that you are like-minded, you agree on those things, you believe along those same lines, in order to have the support, the encouragement, the help that you really need. If you I don't even know what to there's a lot of different beliefs out there, okay, and there's getting to be more and more all the time with what's going on. But say you believe that aliens are real and that they're coming or they're already here, and then you try to talk to somebody that thinks that that's just insane, and and this is like what's really important, that's what your life is about, is the aliens. Well, then people that think that's insane are going to think you're insane, and you're not going to be able to have an intelligent conversation. There's not going to be any information you can be sharing with each other, any help or anything, because they're going to be like, you're out there. And so like-minded people, especially as we become more and more fixed on certain things being crucial in our lives, yeah, it's important to find those people, and finding them might be a little more difficult than what you think. There were a lot of people when I started into this back in 2015. There were a lot of people that I thought that we were like-minded, and as as I began to see that as being really important, and things started to be challenged and all, I found that I wasn't like-minded with several of these people. So as I've been, talking to God about what to share with you, there's one very clear thing that he, of my story, that he's pointed out, that this is one of the best things for being able to help a person know whether or not they're finding like-minded people. Because like I said, you're not going to find anybody that agrees with everything with you. There seems to be a lot of people that think that if you don't agree with everything with them, then they don't want anything to do with you. And pretty soon they're going to be very lonely, because they're going to, even the people they think they agree with on everything, they're going to find a point somewhere where they don't agree. And it's okay not to agree about everything, but there's certain things that are really huge in life. And so many years ago, the Lord laid it on my heart to make a list. And I've told you before, I am a list person. I have a list for lists. My lists have lists. Okay. but it helps me kind of sort things out, keep on task or whatever. So when I was single, I was pretty leery of what I was going to do with my life and trying to find out who I was. It was all very, very frightening to me. I was in my 50s. I'd never been on my own before. It was really a very confusing time, a very difficult time. And I had a lot of people saying, oh, do this and you'll feel better, or do that and it'll make things so much better. And the counsel did not turn out to be good. When I would give in and go, okay, I'm going to try that, it didn't make anything better. In a lot of ways, it made things worse. And, and so I kind of, God got my attention that I'm listening to people and I'm not really listening to him. And so he knew what was best for me. He knows me better than anybody knows me. And so I was following the wrong counsel, and so I quickly got, pulled myself back from that. Excuse me a minute, my eye wants to itch. And I got a scratch because you just get me in the raw, real. This is what you see is what you get, people. But anyway, I just was, I came to this point where I was like, Lord, because even the men that I was meeting in the church, there was always these little things that kept creeping in there. And I never did date while I was single. I never did date. I can't even say that Marvin and I dated because it was a very different way of getting to know each other. And it was a friendship that grew. And it wasn't like, meeting somebody and you go out on dates and stuff. I never did really do that. But there were some men in the beginning that were like, oh, we should go to dinner or whatever. And I did have this thing that came on me that, you know what, I've never been on my own before. I don't even know who I am. And like I said, it was a very difficult time in many ways and very confusing for me. And so I was just like, I wasn't ready to jump out there in that world. And so I had told a few men who had approached me that, you know what, I hope you understand, but I'd like to give it a good year of just, so on such and such a date, it will have been a year. And then, we'll see, if you still want to take me to dinner or whatever. But they always had this little extra thing they'd say about after dinner and how God would understand. That was like, that's not me. and it was very disappointing to me that I remember even one time going, Lord, do they just do they have like a club that they go to or a class that they take? And because they almost would say word for word the same thing. And I'm just like, that's not who I want to be. That's not the direction I want to go. I had come to that conclusion, that is not me. And I'm not going to be happy being that kind of a person. So we're not going to go that way. And so I had told the Lord, here's the thing. I'm just not sure there's any really decent men out there. I mean, if this is the best that the church is offering me, it's not good. So, and I don't want to be in a bad situation. I don't want to end up married to somebody that, there were 3 things that were really important to me. I was like, Lord, I don't want somebody who's going to raise a hand to me. I don't want them to be raising their voice to me because I'd been traumatized by rage and by somebody else's rage. And I couldn't handle that anymore. So I didn't want them to raise a hand to me. I wasn't going to be smacked. I didn't want them to raise their voice to me. And I did not want them to cheat on me. Those 3 things were like, is there a man out there that can be that way? I don't know. I don't know. And so I said, it's probably just going to be you and me, Lord, because I don't want to be in that kind of a situation. So it'll probably be really lonely, but if it's just you and me, I'll get through it. I'll get by. That wasn't what I wanted. I really did want to have a really good Christian marriage, and I just didn't know that was going to be an option. And so I finally came to a point where I said, Lord, unless you bring somebody, set him down in front of me and say, here, marry him. I'm not doing it. I'm done. I don't want to go to dinner. I don't want to nothing. I'm done. And so, interestingly, that is what God ended up doing. Was he did bring Marvin to me, and he did set him in front of me and say, here, this guy right here, I want you to marry him. And and that's another story for another time. Like I keep saying, I want to tell this story, and I give little bits and pieces here and there, but I want Marvin and I to be able to tell you together. So when he's ready to come on camera and tell the story with me, then we'll do that. But in the meantime, the Lord had told me, he had me make a list prior to all this of what I really wanted in a husband, because I was really disenchanted and hurt and not believing there was anything good out there. And he had told me one day, he goes, make a list. Make a list? Yeah, make a list of what you want in a husband, of what you think a good husband for you would be. What is it that you want? And leave no details out. I mean, if you want a certain color of hair or color of eyes or whatever, all of it. Just put everything down and then prioritize it. The most important thing first and on down. So I did that. And I don't remember, I've got the list. I still have it. I will keep that forever. But there's quite a few things on that list. But there ended up being like the top 5 things when I looked at that list, because he said, after I made the list, he said, so you've got it in order of priority. What on that list? Because, some of those things you might have to, give and take with, maybe you want a guy that weighs, 180 pounds, but then there's this guy that's 190. Are you going to discount him because, is that a deal breaker? Well, of course not, and I sure didn't want some guy at 180 pounds. That's too thin. Unless he's only, 2 feet tall. So anyhow, I had, the things down. And so I looked at it and I said, well, about those first 5, those would be deal breakers. Those are absolute musts. And so God said, okay. And everything else is flexible. And I thought back to a time when my first husband and I were looking to buy a home. And, I had made out a list, and on that, I had things that absolutely we had to have. Like, we absolutely had to have 2 bathrooms. We absolutely had to have at least 3 bedrooms, because we still had kids at home and everything. And I knew these are things we need. But it would be nice to have a fireplace. But if we can't get it, that's okay. And so I absolutely have to have part of the list. And then it would be nice to have part of the list. And I had given that to our real estate agent. And then he sorted out, because there was a ton of things for sale at the time. And so, we had the price range, absolutely not over this amount and all. And there were some absolutes, and then it would be nice kind of things that we had made on our list. Well, my husband and I had done this together. And so then we had given the real estate agent that, and then he gave us, okay, here's your absolute musts are a part of all these properties. And so then we did drive-bys by the outside, and some of them, like there was one that had a chemical factory across the back fence. Yeah, I wasn't even interested. Another one where the train track actually ran through the property, maybe 20 feet from the back door. It was an old grandfathered inn out in the boondocks situation. And yeah, did not want that, not with kids. And, so yeah, didn't want a train running through my property all the time. So there were some things that we just drove by and could go, yeah, that's not going to be it. And then we narrowed it down to, I think, 3 properties and went and looked at them and, and found the one we wanted and bought it. So not that I was trying to buy a husband, but it kind of reminded me of that when God was talking to me. So these things on my list, these are absolutes. If these aren't true about the man, I'm not even interested. And then these other things it would be nice to have things. Okay. So I'm going to tell you the first 2 things on my list, because here's what happened when Marvin and I met and we began to talk. One day in a conversation, we were talking about, because he was kind of having the same thing too, where he was really disenchanted about the women available even at church, and, and just, trying to find that right person, because you just don't want to be in a bad situation. And he had said, the Lord had him make a list. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, the Lord had me make a list of what I want in a wife. And I go, he had me make a list of what I wanted in a husband. And he's like, really? But I thought it was even more interesting that this man would have this list. Somehow I could see women having lists, but a man. And so we ended up eventually, we shared those lists. And the first few things on our list were identical. But the first two things were absolute absolutes. Like the first five things were absolute. If these things aren't true, not interested. But the first two things, not even going to look at those other three if these two aren't true, because these were so absolute and they were identical on both our lists. So the first thing was they've got to love God more than anything. And the second thing, they've got to love me second to God. And we both had that on our list, which was interesting. This was part of the, and then my list, when I read down it really describes Marvin. And when he read down his list, it really described me. I mean, it was weird in a good way. But, I look back now and I know that all those years prior, God was preparing us for each other. And we didn't even know the other person existed. We didn't even have hope anymore. By the time that we met, we both had given up and just figured we'd both be single and it would just be us and Jesus. And we were resolved to that. And then boom, guess what? So when you're trying to find a like-minded person, I think that is a great thing to do, is you make a list of what a like-minded person would look like. And the top, and prioritize it. Then your top 3 to 5 things, are going to be your deal breakers. That, like if you're going to be like-minded with me, I can tell you right now, you got to love God more than anything. Now, you don't have to love me second to God. Only my husband needs to do that. But if you don't love God, if you don't care about him, if Jesus isn't your everything, we're not like-minded. We're not. I mean, we can still be friends and get along and all that, but you're not a like-minded person with me, because that is the most important thing in my life, and everything revolves around that. And then what would be other things? That's just the first most important. Things on my list that would be, we could work with it kind of thing, is it helps to have a sense of humor, because everything is hilarious to me. Well, not everything, but I have quite a sense of humor. Marvin has quite a sense of humor. And so people that have great sense of humors tend to get along really well with us. But I also have friends that have no sense of humor whatsoever. They never get it. And, I can work with that. Sometimes it makes things even funnier. But when it comes to being like-minded, it doesn't mean that you can't be my friend or anything like that. I'm just saying, when it comes down to that, we could actually work together, survive together. If God isn't your number one, then it's not going to work very well, because I'm depending on him. I'm listening to him. I'm seeking him. And so other people that are trying to survive with me, that are going to be in my like-minded group, that's going to be very important. That's a part of their life. So, there are some times when we need like-minded people around us. There are some things that we can only share in our lives with like-minded people. So you need to know who those like-minded people are. And that's where I have found not everybody I thought was like-minded with me was I had some different feelings about some things and some different concerns. And then you try to share it with somebody, and then, but they don't feel that way about it, and they think you're a little overboard or whatever. And where I needed encouragement, instead I got a little bit of criticism and discouragement, even some kind of ridicule. I even in one situation got yelled at. That doesn't help. So there's times when I know I need like-minded people in my life. So it's important to know who those like-minded people are. So by knowing what is most important to me, what are deal breakers, because we don't have to agree about everything, but there's some things we need to agree on. And Jesus, he's number one. So just wanted to share that with you again, not telling you this is what you need to do, but if you are dealing with that you need like-minded people in your life for those big things, when you need to have somebody that you can get counsel from, because I'm going to seek counsel from like-minded people. I'm going to share the deepest, concerns in my life with like-minded people, because they're not going to jump all over me and tell me that I'm ridiculous. They're going to understand. So you don't need a ton of like-minded people in your life, but you need some. And so if if you're feeling that somehow bears witness with you, then maybe this kind of gives you an idea of how to find them and how to deal with that. What are the 3 or 5 most important things? That you don't want too many more than that, because then you're going to start getting, into too many differences, and you could get to where there is nobody like-minded. But what are the 3 to 5 things that are most important to you, or even just the one thing that's most important to you? And as long as we feel, in agreement on that, we're like-minded. And, and it could be in different areas of our lives. We have different kinds of like-minded people. At work, somebody who's like-minded about work, it may not have anything to do with being like-minded in your personal life, or, or your spiritual life. So there can be different areas of our lives where, we're like-minded with people. And, I have people that are like-minded with me on, the way that we live, growing our own food. And I would like to have some chickens. Maybe we'll get them one day. Still kind of waiting to see on that, or how that would work for us, because I don't even know if we could handle the responsibility. But if so, then the Lord will, then he'll direct that. Don't anybody send me any chickens. Please don't send me chickens. I'm just telling you, those are things that we think about. But, there's a farmer that we're very like-minded with him on the quality of food that we eat, and, in our personal lives. It's probably the only thing we're like-minded on. But when we're talking about food, and when we're talking about growing things, we know he's a great one to go to, because we are like-minded, and he knows more than we do, and we'll get wise counsel on it. So we need like-minded people in different areas of our lives. I'm convinced of that. As we try to do things, and we want to do our best, having somebody that is opposed to what we're doing, that's not the that's not the person to go talk to about it, right? So anyway, there's that for today. And I hope I haven't forgotten anything. I know these videos have been going a little bit longer, but tomorrow we're going to be back on probably just old good old-fashioned stories, and different things that we've been through, and stuff, that Marvin and I have, or that I have before Marvin, and all of that. So I'm looking forward to it, because I've got lots of stories I want to tell. So I love you guys. I appreciate you so much. At the time of filming this, I saw Gail this morning, my friend that lives down the road here. And, she was like, "Oh, I see you've got 19 subscribers." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Where's number 20? Why are they holding back, joking about it?" Because I'm sure, that's not hardly anything. But for me, it's exciting, and it's fun. And I love getting comments and hearing from people and all. So, thank you, everybody that's been watching these videos and they're hanging in there with me. I hope it's doing something for you, or why would you waste your time, right? So, yeah, but I'm looking for subscriber number 20. If I don't have it by the time, because this is being filmed about 4 days before it'll actually go up. So if I don't have 20 by then, somebody find number 20 for me. All right. I love you guys. You have a great day, and I will talk to you later.